I am Brooke Stickle, and I'm the marketing manager at Arkus Inc. And now that we're 2 minutes past the hour to give people time to log in, we're going to go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to say welcome, everyone. We're so happy you've decided to join us for this webinar in our Marketing Cloud series. Today, we're going to examine how Data 360, formerly known as Data Cloud, can help streamline all your systems into one source of marketing truth. We're so excited to see some old friends, and there are some new ones in there too. And in a moment, we're going to dive into the main content. But before that, I want to cover a bit of housekeeping and how the UI of this platform will work. But first, we want to introduce ourselves. And if I can get my fellow presenters up here, we've got Eva Mandich and Steve Parrott. And we also have Lauren Kranis, and they are going to be having our discussion today and running our demo. So Eva Mandich is a 9 times Salesforce certified marketing leader who helps our nonprofit and our for-profit clients use data to create more human, scalable engagement across every channel. Then we've got Steve Parrott, our Director of Data Services, and he leads our data services team to bring real-world leadership experience and a genuine passion for helping organizations to bring together their trusted, well-aligned data. Lauren Kranis is an Arkus data service solution architect. She focuses on building scalable data solutions, and she loves to connect the technical details to the real business goals so teams can put their data to work. And as I said, I'm Brooke Stickle, the marketing manager at Arkus, and I'm excited to MC this webinar because I work with B2B campaigns across digital and traditional strategies all the time. And I'm looking forward to learning more about how data and marketing can work together to streamline our marketing workflows. So first, we're going to take a look at some housekeeping tips for the webinar. If you notice the screen sharing lags for a moment, don't be alarmed if the screen goes black for just a second. That is just the platform and what it does when it's switching the scenes between screens. To submit a question or to answer a poll question when we ask you for more information, see the thought bubble with the question mark in the upper right corner of your screen. So any questions that are typed into this panel will be answered during our Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and only moderators can see your questions, so you don't need to be shy. You will receive an email with the recording of the webinar within the next few days. And if you want to contact Arkus, you can either send a request through our Q&A panel, fill out our Contact Us form on our website, or email Eva or I directly. If you look in the chat window, you'll see that both of our email addresses and the link to the Arkus website contact form are also in there already. Or you can go into the chat window, which is the double thought bubble in the top right corner, and you can type your question into there for us as well. So Arkus is a team of over 80 Salesforce certified experts. We're located across the US. We have over 675 certifications in the team. We've helped more than 800 clients complete over 3,000 projects. So you can tell we take our mission really seriously to help our clients, because we have a 4.9 out of 5 stars on the App Exchange. And if you've never visited it, the Salesforce App Exchange is the Salesforce App Store. So that's where you can find trusted apps, integrations, and partners to extend and customize your Salesforce platforms. Eva is one of our experts who makes this possible. So I'm going to ask her to tell us more about why this webinar can be so helpful for marketers. Eva?
Thank you, Brooke, for this excellent intro. So the reason we wanted to do a webinar on this topic is because we're seeing some changes in the field on our marketing cloud automation projects. And over the last few years, we worked with nonprofits across education, arts, healthcare, and advocacy. And while all of the organizations have the different mission, the marketing challenges are almost identical. We see data that is living in too many systems, those systems not being connected. We have teams which are small and stretched thin, and then marketing ends up also being more manual than it should be. So today's webinar is focused on discussing patterns we keep seeing and how organizations like maybe yours can simplify data and marketing so your team can spend less time and have what they need to amplify mission and get more supporters on board. Next slide, please. All right, so before we jump in, I want to quickly explain how today's session will work. This will be a conversation, not a presentation. Brooke will be moderating and asking questions. Then, based on what we're seeing from the experience with our clients, we have Steve, who will be answering from the data side on how data gets connected, what it takes to set it up, and what to watch out for. And I will be answering from the marketing lens on how teams use the data to segment, personalize, and also automate outreach. Make sure you stay at the end, because we also have a great demo. Lauren will walk you through how to set up one of the connectors in the Data 360, and we'll also show you how to set up donation cart abandonment, which, fun fact, the donation cart abandonment helps nonprofits convert 10 to 17% on average more donations once it's implemented. So let's get started.
So, Steve, welcome. I'm going to ask some questions, and you and Eva can just let us know your thoughts on those. And I'm excited for this because as a marketer myself, I really want to learn more. So why is it that we're hearing from so many of our clients in nonprofits and for-profits that their marketing teams are struggling right now?
So from experience, most of marketing teams are lean. And on the other hand, we have constituent expectations rising, and the amount of just content that is competing for attention has exploded. I mean, talk about all of the LinkedIn AI posts nowadays, right? So as a result, this puts a lot of pressure on small teams to make their brands or organizations stand out, which requires communication and messaging to come out timely, to be relevant, and also intentional. So the struggle is really in the time or this capacity to do all of it. So today's marketer needs to worry about pulling lists. If the system is not connected, then you need to download spreadsheets, reconcile the records, fix sync issues if you do have systems connected, then react to last minute requests. And then you get into the marketing world of ideating, creating, approving content, campaigns, figuring out like what worked, reporting, strategizing, and then iterating. So, I mean, I just get no breath on listing these responsibilities. And also, not to mention that as a marketer, you are a creator, and that creativity needs headspace. So while today we cannot ignore the recent shift in content saturation and rising expectation, because otherwise all of our effort would be wasted. So in summary, the biggest struggle we see is the lack of time.
Thank you, Eva. Let me give a data perspective on this question. Think back, it doesn't matter if you installed your CRM last year or 20 years ago, you probably didn't start with a data architecture diagram or even a data strategy, which is completely understandable. Whenever you added a new system, the priority was to get the benefits from that system. But now today, there are so many new tools out there, from AI to data visualization tools. You now need to be able to connect all of those data sources to get the most out of those new tools. So there's nothing wrong with the tools themselves, but it's the lack of connection that creates friction. And this friction creates struggles within marketing groups because you know the data exists, but you just can't get it to work for you. So that's what we're trying to connect.
So then what I'm hearing is that marketing teams are spending way more time in technicalities in data than they need to. And right now we have the tools to solve for that finally. So let's talk about what happens when data is actually connected. Salesforce has rolled out Marketing Cloud on Core, also known as Marketing Cloud Next, and Data 360 over the last few years. Now, from a practical standpoint, how do these tools and having all the channels on one platform actually save time and make everyday tasks easier for marketing teams?
So let me answer that by starting with a term that you may have heard, and that's called zero copy. So with Data 360, you no longer need to migrate all your data into your CRM or Marketing Cloud. With Data 360, there are real savings by using the data connectors. Once a connector is set up, data flows automatically, and more importantly, it stays in sync. No one has to babysit integrations or reconcile versions of the truth across systems. With Data 360 becomes the central place where everything comes together in a reliable way. What gets easier immediately is that the same data powers every channel and use case. You're not rebuilding logic for email, SMS, reporting, and segmentation separately. Everyone is working from the same source of truth, which reduces errors, duplicate work, and the confusion around what data is the right data. That consistency is what keeps omnichannel marketing manageable, especially for smaller teams that need to move fast without adding operational overhead. Eva?
Thank you, Steve. That's very insightful. So from marketing perspective, the easiest way to explain this is with an example. Let's say we have Rachel. She discovers your nonprofit on social and she resonates with your mission. She gives you a follow, and then she scrolls through your feed and clicks on a post, and that post leads her to a newsletter sign up. So today, all of that activity gets split across different tools. So you have website analytics in one place, email engagement in another, the form data went into a spreadsheet or your CRM, if depends if those tools are connected. So for marketing teams, that means that if data is not connected, you have to put in more manual work or you have to guesswork, probably a little bit of both. And as a marketer, when you're asking the questions, when you're ideating campaign, you're asking questions, okay, what content brought this segment here? Which channel is this particular segment most active on? Are they now ready for deeper engagement? Well, answering those will take time. It will take time and effort. And now that we have tools such as Data 360, what we can do is take all of that activity across different channels and connect it into one, you'll probably hear the term golden record or unified profile. With the Marketing Cloud Next, Brooke, that you mentioned, that tool is sitting directly on top of Data 360. And this also doesn't need to be Marketing Cloud Next. It can be Marketing Cloud Account Engagement or Marketing Cloud Engagement. And you can leverage that data directly. So now, instead of pulling out the list, cleaning the spreadsheets, doing the manual work, excluding like Rachel from the campaigns, etc., like the system now can take all of the data in one place, and you will be able to simply look up what content Rachel engaged with, which channel she's mostly active in, and then plan, okay, what is it going to take for her to take that meaningful action? So now with all of this, you've unlocked some really practical things where her next email, you can adjust it so that it automatically fires when she clicks on something, that it's matching her interests. And also all of this personalization and insight showing her deeper engagement, she can move into a different journey without anybody rebuilding lists. So all of this time-saving shift comes from marketers spending less time managing data and more time acting on it, and also acting better.
So that sounds like it involves AI, of course, and AI is one of, the big focuses for Salesforce across all of its platforms this year. So how does the AI actually get better when Data 360 is involved?
All right, Brooke, thank you for asking that question. I'm sure all of you have heard this before. AI is only as good as the data. And the reason you keep hearing that is because it's true. When data is fragmented, AI has to guess. When data is connected, AI can learn. Data Cloud gives AI a full picture, not just one interaction, but a full relationship, and that will make all the difference in the world with your marketing decisions. Ava, talk about those, please.
Thanks. So Salesforce, yes, it now added a bit of a flavor of AI to all of its clouds or features. And in particular, Marketing Next is built in mind on the future of marketing. So it does have features such as send time optimization. You can generate segments in plain English. You also can use an agent to help you build your campaigns, and we'll see that later in the demo. And to Steve's point with the data, when you have larger subset of data, it will lead to better outputs. Of course, it's not only that, you need to prompt it, etc., but that is the general consensus. And for also organizations not on Marketing Cloud Next, but who are on account engagement or Marketing Cloud engagement, you can still leverage AI and leverage the Data 360. So Salesforce rolled out a great package called Salesforce Foundations. You can install it for free. And then it doesn't take much time for you to enable that package. And once you set it up, then you can trial all of those new features like campaign flow, Einstein send time optimization, all to enhance your campaigns. And this is something we also in our projects recommended to marketing teams who are a little bit more risk averse, who want to try out new things before they switch, because it is free, relatively easy to set up. So if you haven't checked out Salesforce Foundations, I would highly recommend.
And I think that really leads us nicely to our next question is, do organizations need a technical staff to run these integrations between Data 360 and Marketing Cloud and to actually have all of the gains that are possible with those integrations?
Yeah, well, the short answer is no, not on a day-to-day basis, because once the connectors are set up, marketers can then run campaigns themselves without technical staff. The technical work happens up front, right? So after that, once it's all set up, the marketing teams work in a visual drag and drop interface with minimal interaction with the technical staff.
You're right, Steve. And really, in organizations also, there are Salesforce admin and IT teams who mostly handle the maintenance and the connection. And as far as the marketers, no matter what marketing automation platform you're from, if you choose to switch to a new Marketing Cloud Next, your day-to-day is very approachable. You're building emails, creating campaigns, personalizing content, reviewing the reports. It is really intuitive and similar across different platforms. Where things get a little more technical is in automation and journeys, and also setting data graphs for personalization. Now, it's not super technical. Also, if you have a Salesforce admin in the team, they can probably help you either learn the basics of the flow. And if you are on Marketing Cloud account engagement or engagement and you want to leverage this connected data, then you can build the segments and push them into these tools. And specifically for Marketing Cloud engagement users who know your connector is limited, it can only see contact and related objects with with this segmentation push, you get to leverage and be more flexible about what data do you bring in. But as far as the technical standpoint, it's really simple and with a little learning curve.
Great. Now, that sounds pretty good to me because I have my on and off days with technicalities. So we have one more question for this segment, and that is, why isn't the CRM alone enough for a marketing team?
Okay, I can start on this one if you don't
Okay.
mind, Steve. So it depends on your marketing goals and or the ambition, and also what data sources you have. So I wouldn't say CRM isn't enough, because it can be. We had projects where CRM is the only source of data. A lot of organizations now have their donation platform integrated, or their Shopify that is integrated directly in the CRM. So from there, where we come in as a consultants, where we saw our role shift in recent few years, is making sense of the data and figuring out what it is missing, training the team to then leverage the new features, and then also implementing scoring and grading to understand, okay, who are the people who are most engaged, what are their organizational ideal constituents, and then they can take this and just have the CRM, but still do more intentional marketing to increase their conversions.
Great. So let me give you this perspective on it. So with your donors and constituents, the more you know about them, the more effective you can be with interacting. Data works the same way. The more you have in a structured, organized way, the more insight you can gain that in turn can influence the decisions and campaigns. If you only look at the data in your CRM, you will only be getting one slice of those insights, albeit it's a very good slice. The added benefit of Data 360 is you can operate as if your data is in the CRM, even though the data resides in all your other systems. You no longer have to make this choice of, do I move all my data into the CRM, or do I just make decisions without that data, or do I somehow try an ad hoc approach where I match the data myself? Well, with Data 360, you get all those benefits of having all the data without having to move all your data or build clumsy matching algorithms. Data 360 manages all those sources of data and gives you the access you need to optimize every campaign and program to its fullest potential.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, we are going to move on to our next section. And that is a little bit about Discovery and Roadmap Accelerator. So Eva, why don't you walk us through what this new accelerator is all about?
Yeah, happy to. So we spoke earlier of marketing team struggling and how the industry is shifting with the use of AI. And also we mentioned that in our experience, we see our role as consultants shift. And really, a few years ago, we used to do probably 90% of tech configuration. Now tools are all drag and drop, really nice. And so nowadays we see that split more 50-50 on configuration side, and then like talking through with all of the various teams and data and how to leverage, and then also how to take that to power marketing execution. So for that reason, we came up with this Discovery and Roadmap Accelerator. This is not an implementation. There is no data migration or configuration. Instead, we work with your marketing, your fundraising operations, or any team or any data stakeholders to understand how things actually work today, where the friction is, and what data is there, or maybe what data you need to start collecting to meet your organizational goals. So the outcome of this engagement is a practical roadmap. You'll get what to focus on first, what can wait, which tools make sense. Maybe if you have great tools, we try to take those and make sense out of them instead of, oh, hey, you need to like purchase these new tools. So some organizations can come out of it with connected tools, and they're having the plan with the current tools, while others we may recommend, okay, you are fit for upgrading your tech stack. All of this, of course, with keeping in mind the capacity of your teams. We take that in and put the implementation plan to meet you where you're at. And so the goal is very simple. We help your team move forward with clarity and confidence instead of doing the guesswork. And as a result of it, you have a clear path forward and are less likely to waste resources.
That's excellent. And we are going to be launching that within the next few weeks. And if you would like some more information about that accelerator, we invite you to put that into the Q&A, or you can always reach out to Eva or I separately or through our contact form. Again, that information is in the chat window. So now we're going to ask you a question. So let me pull up our first poll here, and that is going to be, which marketing solution are you currently using? And if you wouldn't mind going ahead and putting your answer in there, and if you don't, if you're not using one right now, or if what you are using is not listed here, please by all means put what you are using in the chat window, because we like to make sure that we're kind of tailoring what we're doing here to where you are right now. All right, we're going to give it another few seconds. It looks like we've got a quiet group today, Eva. All right, so we have two that are on Marketing Cloud account engagement, and we are actually moving on from that one ourselves, so that's fantastic. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. And now I am going to turn it over to Eva and Lauren for the demo sections of our webinar. And Eva, I am making you the presenter. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make Lauren the presenter.
Lauren, take it away.
So, as we get the demo rolling, we just want to make sure that the data gets in the right place and it's labeled correctly and it's tied to the right person, so we can make marketing's job easier and they can act on the data that is collected from all of our systems. So the first step we need to take is to make sure that all the data that's living in these multiple systems that may or may not already be talking to each other gets connected to Data 360. So think of this like opening the door between the tools so they're ready to use. So as you can see here, we're in the traditional Salesforce UI and we happen to be in the Data Cloud app. So if we come over here to Data Cloud Setup, you're going to see all of the different connectors that Data 360 has out of the box. So just as a little preview, here are all of the connectors that Data 360 talks to almost natively. So we have Shopify, Google Drive, SharePoint, and any data that's already living in your CRM system. So as we establish the connection between the external source and Data 360, we will create what's called a data stream. A data stream is simply the path the data takes to get into Salesforce. So we're going to go ahead and walk through setting up a data stream. for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to use a flat file CSV that is extracted from Shopify. So as you can see on the screen here, I've uploaded a flat file that has information around the customer ID that is native to the external platform, the donation order number, whether or not this cart was abandoned, and on what date this action occurred. So on the left-hand side right here, you'll see a very important step we need to take, a decision we need to make in order for Data 360 to use this information. Here, this category allows us to tell Salesforce what kind of data this is. So you can see we have three options. Profile data, which tells us who the person is. Engagement data, what the person did or how they interacted with the system. And then other, which is supporting detail. So if it doesn't quite fit into profile or engagement data. For the cart abandonment use case, we're going to treat this activity as engagement data. So how the customer interacted with the cart. So when I select engagement, I will have to fill out specific fields here. The first one being the event time field, which is the date and time in which the interaction occurred. This is a field that cannot change downstream. So they'll go ahead and select date, and then the primary key, which is the unique identifier of this spreadsheet, which is the donation number. This choice matters because it controls what we can do with this data once we've ingested the data. So if we label the data wrong here, it's like putting the donation information into the volunteer hours folder. So everything downstream just gets a bit harder to use the data. So I've gone ahead and already created this data stream. So you'll see right here, this data stream comes into the UI, and we're now able to start mapping this data. Once the data stream is live, it creates something called a data lake object. So you can think of this as a raw holding table for where the data first lands, just as it comes in. So this is like the mailbox where all the incoming forms are dropped off before we sort them and allow the respective user to get their mail. Once we have the data lake object created, we can go ahead and then map the data lake object to the data model object. This will allow Salesforce to know how to use the data. So it's very similar to the worksheets we did in elementary school with mapping the picture to the words. Now we're mapping the fields in the data lake object to the fields in the data model object. So it allows us to align fields from multiple different systems to one harmonized model. Once we've gone through the mapping exercise, we can then create the golden record that Eva had alluded to previously. So this is where the magic happens and we can bring all the data together. So the identity resolution rules help Salesforce understand when records from different systems belong to the same person. So for example, if Alex donated once using one email and later abandoned a cart using another email, so there's two interactions Alex has with the donation platform. One logged in with his business email, one logged in with his personal email. And he decided to abandon cart once on his business, but then placed a donation through his personal email we want to know that both of those interactions are tied to the same individual. So we set up matching rules that allow us to identify that this is the same person. So we can almost think of this as matching name tags at an event, so we don't treat the same person like a stranger twice. Once we've established the rules to identify the same person across multiple different systems, we can then use this data for marketing purposes. So now we can go ahead and build segments based off of the unified profiles. So for example, we have built a segment for people who have abandoned their cart within the last 24 hours, and we want to set them off on a marketing journey. And this is where I will hand it back over to Eva to show how this turns into an automated email journey.
Excellent. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for doing all the hard work for me. So picking up from the segment, in here you'll see it looks pretty similar to any marketing automation platform you're on. You need to set up rules. You can also, I'll show this a little later, create a segment by just prompting an Einstein to do it for you. One thing to point out here on the left-hand side where you're picking your attributes, you'll see that in here we have unified individuals. So when you are building the segment using Data 360 Segment Builder and then pushing it either to Account Engagement or Marketing Cloud or the Marketing Cloud Next, you need to go through this process of unifying individual. That is how the platform is set up to ensure that you are really doing your best targeting. Also, whoever set this up, if somebody else like Lauren did for me, make sure you're talking to her to know what are the labels for all of the attributes. And so once you've set up your segment, what I'll do is show you how in a few seconds you can use agent. And this agent comes out of the box, the campaign builder one. So create cart abandonment journey. All right, so it's going to first ground this campaign in the plan. So it's going to add the target segment information and your key message, which is to take the high intent users and help them complete their purchase. So you can either confirm this, talk back to it, and until you're set on target segment and key message. So once I click confirm, it's going to move on to the next step. It created this brief for me. So I'm going to confirm this, and this is a record. So I did not click new or enter any information. It just is creating me, created it for me as we speak, as they say. So, and now it gave me a campaign preview. So as I mentioned, flows are what the journey builder is in Marketing Cloud Next. So here it came up with a 3-step journey. First is going to be an email, and then also MC Next comes with SMS. So it's going to send an SMS and email. I think this is a good start. Actually, it's another SMS. Maybe that's a little too aggressive, but I can fix that easily once we are in the campaign. Also, you'll see here that it already preset subject line in pre-header and body copy, so it's pretty neat. Now I'm going to open the campaign record that it generated. So you will notice here on the left-hand side, I have my brief. So if I want to add any more information, I can easily do that. The brief is used for generating the email content and grounding all the information of this campaign so that you can leverage your data for your agent better. Then you can update your details of the campaign. You can add campaign members and also see all of your related data. So if this campaign can also have several journeys and can have several forms linked to it. And I think this is a really nice campaign management model that Salesforce came up with. You also, once you run this campaign, here you can click into performance and see all of the insights and also deliverability metrics as well. So you can see your insights broken down per channel across email, SMS, web. If you have, once you place cookies on web, you can shift the date range. You can also split the performance metrics across different journeys, segments, and also content type. So this is pretty cool where you can see how each content perform. So if I go back here on in the journey builder, you can see that you can do it in a really simple drag and drop interface. So here I'm gonna select the segment that I already created. I could also send it to campaign members, go to segment builder. Let me just quickly show you creating with segment with Einstein. So making sure here we select our unified individual. Say, I'm just gonna click account for now. And then here you can talk to an agent to help you create a segment. Now, I want to make sure we have time to show you the flow. So I can open my journey builder or the flow. And what is really cool is that I did not set any of this up manually. So I just talked to an agent, it preset all of these steps for me. Now I can come here, let's say I want to delete this step. And not only the steps, but you can see your email as well. It has a subject line. You can easily from this screen edit or preview and test your email. You can use your wait steps, pretty typical for Journey Builder. You can do wait step on minutes, months, and hours, and also days. As you can see, it's nothing really technical. Like as a marketer, if you build journeys in the engagement program or Journey Builder, this is really super simple. You can also see that here this flow has all of the elements of traditional Salesforce flow. So on top of this journey, you can also create records, you can update records, delete records. Here you can use these AI features such as Einstein to make an Einstein decision based on scoring or the frequency. So if somebody's more engaged or less engaged, you can put them on a different journey. Maybe the more engaged ones would appreciate that like fourth reminder, but the less engaged, maybe not. Let's not push it, right? So you can really like tailor the messaging and meet your constituents where they're at. So deleting this element. And then once you selected the segment, wrote your emails, let me see, I will show you the email builder as well. So here is our content. Great. What is new in Marketing Cloud Next is also brand. So you can select, you can have many brands. If you're a bigger organization with subsidiaries, then you can have different brands and easily replace them and cut the time you're building when building your emails. And as you can see, it is drag and drop. For the cart abandonment journeys, we have these repeaters, and what you can do, you can personalize the repeaters. So now that it is displaying the type of donation, let's say if they went for a recurring donation or if they went for a one time, it can specifically remind them where what they wanted to donate. Or like if you have a Shopify store, you can put the different products and specifically show them what product they wanted to purchase. So now that you have a little taste of how the technology is becoming easier, and really what we can't emphasize enough is like cleaning that foundation, setting that foundation so that you can leverage these tools to help you be more efficient and for you ultimately to get more supporters on board. That is it for the demo. Brooke, back to you.
That was excellent. Thank you, Eva. I don't know about you, but I really just kind of want to get in there and play with everything and see what I can build. So those demos were great. Just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A tab at the top right of your screen, and we will answer them after this poll question. So I'm going to share our second poll, and this one is kind of a little more fun. This is what best describes your organization's current marketing state. And we invite all of you to go ahead and answer this. So we've got a trying to be data-driven, which is great, overwhelmed and understaffed. Still a quiet group, but that's okay. I'm going to give you a few more seconds here to go ahead and answer. Overwhelmed and understaffed and trying to be data-driven. So yeah, that sounds really familiar, and I really think that these new tools and being able to pull in your data from everywhere could really help with those issues. So next, we are going to go to our Q&A. Oops, one slide too far. All right, so the questions that I have here, and I'm going to ask Eva and Steve to both pop on camera to answer our questions for us. There we go. All right, so please go ahead and type any questions you may have into the Q&A panel. The first question that we got is, what's the fastest way to see results?
You want to take it, Eva?
Yeah, sure. So it depends. Like, I'm not a fan of fast way reaching the results. I don't think it's realistic. But let's say you are migrating from one platform to another. Probably you want to optimize what you have. Like if you have the welcome journey, like, and depending also on your capacity, we like to at Arkus propose this like crawl, walk, run approach. So take what you have, optimize it. Once you have more time, then okay, put together few other campaigns, such as maybe donation card abandonment. And I can't emphasize enough, make sure you have a strong foundation. So sometimes when we do these discovery projects, it can feel as a maybe step back. If you think about it, it's like a cleaning the house. If you want to reorder your furniture to move in your house easier, then you need to clean your house first. So meaning clean your data first, because all of the AI that you will be inevitably using is going to be relying on that data. So that is counterintuitively the fastest way to see results. Clean your data first.
Yeah, so let me give you another tip on that. Is I said earlier that from a marketer's perspective, there's very little technical work, but I also said the setup, it does require a lot of technical work. So what I would suggest is start with one connector, one data source, make sure it works, get comfortable with it, because you really need that investment into setting it up right. If you go and try and set up 18 different data sources, you won't know why it's not working or why it is working to track it down. So just start with one and go from there.
Fantastic. So how long, this is a good question too, because I know a lot of people are wondering this, so thanks for this question. How long does it typically take to have data integrated for, let's say, a medium-sized organization?
Well, as a typical answer you can expect is it all depends. But if you, part of the process is just even in the validation of the data that you're getting. So if you're using data that you're very familiar with, that you trust that you can validate it, then you're reducing the time it takes to get this up. If you get a connector going and you're not really that comfortable, it's brand new data for you, it could take a little longer. So the connector itself, it's I would say days, but it really depends. It really depends. But a big part is the validation. So the more complex the data you choose, the more time it's going to need.
And Steve, just from some of the projects we worked on together, we worked with organizations where we've helped them set up in 2 weeks. Yeah. Some it took 2 months. So Steve said it depends, but to give you a sense of like the timeline.
Yeah, thank you. Great. And I think this will be the last question we have time for. What would be the first step to get started?
I mean, the first step is making the decision to start, but then it is get the use case. Tell what is the user story you're trying to make happen, right? What ultimately is, and make sure you know what that is, and then work backwards from there to what data you need, how do you need it, where does that data exist, and move that way. I wouldn't start with, I've got this data, what can I do with it? I would start with a known use case that you have and work backwards.
Yeah, so basically I would say, okay, so we know that we want to be able to see everything about this, the history of this client, to see if they would be a good person to fit into this campaign, and start all of this work from that point, rather than just kind of an overwhelming, we just need to get the data in.
Yes, I would even go a little more specific than that, Brooke, in that I wouldn't say I want to know everything about this person. Say I want to know this specific thing. I don't currently have this data about this person in my system. I have to go to this other system to get that information. I need a connector that's going to connect those two. So, so it's not, I just need everything about this person. I need something specific. It's in this other system. Make that connection happen, automate it so I can have it in front of me, in front of Marketing Cloud.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for that Q&A session. If you do have any other questions, again, feel free to contact Eva or I, or fill out our contact form, and we will reach out to you shortly. And I am going to thank you all for attending. So after the webinar, you're going to be presented with a survey for your feedback, and your feedback is a gift because it allows us to hone our messaging to provide you with the best experience. Plus, in line with Arkus's green initiatives, we're going to plant 5 trees for each survey completed to show our appreciation for your time. So we'll be sending a follow-up email within the next few days. You can also visit our website where we have tons of blog content about Salesforce and our experiences. Again, our emails are pinned in the chat, and if you're interested in discussing Marketing Cloud or our Marketing Cloud Accelerator further, or if there's anything else that you are considering doing with Salesforce, we're happy to jump on a call to discuss and help you think through the next step in the process. So thank you again to Steve, Eva, and Lauren, and we appreciate you spending this time with us. Have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.